Good morning. We're going to talk this morning just briefly on public goods. There's a little bit of difference between a private and a public good, and let's just first off define the differences between a public and a private good. The public good has two aspects to it that make it a pure public good, and both those have to be true in order for it to be a pure public good. If only one of them is true, it can be have some characteristics of a public good, but some characteristics of a private good. Those two characteristics, one would be non-excludability. That is, that for the public good, you can't exclude anybody's consumption of that item. So a good example of that would be public broadcasting. Even though you haven't paid for it, or you might have paid for it through taxes or through donations, you can't exclude somebody from listening to the public radio. Everybody can do it. And then the second characteristic is non-rivalry. That is, unlike a private good that you purchase and you consume yourself, whether it's an automobile or a sandwich, with a public good like the public radio, my consumption of that good doesn't interfere with your consumption of that good. So there's an infinite number of people that can consume the same good. Those two characteristics make a public good a little bit difficult when it comes to determining the price or cost of that good, and so that makes it somewhat difficult from an economist's standpoint. Now, when we think about pricing or cost of that good, we have a lot of times what we call a willingness to sell versus willingness to pay paradigm. It's kind of not really a paradigm, but a paradox is what I should have said. The ownership of that good, or who has possession of that good, or who has property rights over that good, oftentimes determine the value of that good, and that can change. So if you have a lake and your house is built around that lake, and somebody wants to come and use the water, because that lake, you have ownership in that lake, the value of that water is going to be fairly significant because you enjoy the scenery of it. You might want to swim in it. You enjoy the ducks being on it. You might fish in it, and so you don't want that to be disturbed. So the price is going to go up. But let's say that you were in a group of houses that was planning to put a pond in, and they said, well, how much would you be willing to pay to have that pond put in there? The value of that pond, or the price that you're willing to pay, will be substantially less than the value that you're putting on it to sell that water or eliminate that pond. And that's the idea behind willingness to sell and willingness to pay based on who owns the property. The same thing is true with a public good. And so whether you have it and want to get rid of it, the value will be different than if you don't have it and want it. And one of the problems is to try to add up all the demand from the people that do want it. So if you wanted to put a park in, that's going to be a public good because anybody can use it. How you determine how much that, or the value of that park, will be dependent upon how many people intend to use it. So that's kind of the difference between a public and a private good. And we'll be talking more about that, especially in terms of sustainability, since a lot of the public goods would be things like water, air, and those environmental characteristics. Okay.